All right, welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone is doing okay today and you got a chance to watch that fight. That was a really good prize fight. I really enjoyed that. That lived up to expectations. David Benavidez remains undefeated, beats Caleb Plant in 12 rounds, unanimous decision. That was the right decision for me. I definitely had Benavidez winning. Obviously, Plant, as we thought, would come out strong in the early part of the fight when he had his speed and thought process and, endurance and IQ and all that. And, he was coming out. Well, let's start from the beginning. Okay, round one, Plant actually met him in the middle of the ring. And, was not what I thought. I thought Benavidez might be a bit more aggressive early on, but in his post-fight video, he was mentioning that, obviously it's a 12-round fight and there was a slow, systematic approach to it, and it obviously worked. But Plant was looking nice and relaxed. They both were, but Plant was looking confident, obviously using his jab, using it as like a measuring stick, but also a blinding apparatus and like a bit of a probe, using his footwork well, looking comfortable, winning some early rounds fairly clearly. I think Benavidez was having trouble. Plant was doing an excellent job of range control and, gauging the distance. Benavidez was reaching in a little bit with some of his punches. And, that's not his forte to jab forward and set his punches up like a classic boxer. He needs to close the gap, which is what he did later on. And that's where he's successful. But, early on, first couple rounds, Plant was definitely winning those with his footwork as well and his IQ and his defense. He was certainly neutralizing Benavidez's sought after offense. And then the rounds went on. Round four, and this is one of the reasons I don't really score fights, because it's hard to tell who's getting hurt in there from the fact that these professionals are concealing their pain. But like Benavidez said, he really hurt Plant in the fourth round with a body shot. He said that post-fight he heard him like wince, and he said that was the turning point for him, but I don't remember seeing that. So I still gave Plant the first. I had Plant up 5 rounds to 1, maybe. I didn't have an issue if you wanted it 4-2, but I think 5-1. At a stretch, you could even say Plant won all 6 rounds, but I think the 6th round was a turning point for me. And the distance when it gets closed, and Plant was certainly I thought a lot of his combinations where he's got a very effective lead hand, I didn't think it was that effective. I thought a lot of those shots were getting blocked and were landing on the high guard. He likes to come in with uppercuts, jabs, hooks. Some were getting through, but I'd say the majority won't, and they look flashy and they sound flashy. But he was using a lot of energy doing stuff like that, okay? And then, the gap was getting closed a little bit, and I felt for me, round 6 or 7 was definitely the turning point. And let me just look at my notes really quickly before I forget something, because, Benavidez started roughing Plant up in the 6th round. And look, obviously, we need to talk about this holding situation. Kenny Bayless at no point in this is so crazy. At no point in that whole fight did Kenny Bayless even warn Plant for holding. Now, that's absurd. That's ridiculous. And then in the 8th round, that's where Benavidez really had a breakthrough. He definitely hurt Plant. He was hurting him to the body, but he landed a beautiful overhand right, which started the damage. And, then at this point, they're in close quarters, and that was always going to be an issue and always going to be the problem. And that's where, you don't want to see Caleb Plant when he's a little bit more gassed and he's up close. And that's where Benavidez can get some damage done. And look, the holding, I get it. That's what the plan was, to shut Benavidez down with those amazing combinations up close. But it was incessant and it was too much. And Kenny Bayless, at no point did he give Plant a warning. In fact, he actually warned Benavidez, not warned him, but told him off a couple times for his elbow. And it was just it was so crazy. And then in the 8th, when he did get hurt, when Plant was hurt, inexplicably, Kenny Bayless, we went to see if Plant's cut was okay. Something crazy I gave him another 20-30 seconds. That was insane. It was so crazy, because that was just clearly a clear bias. No points taken off, and Plant was just jabbing at times and then just grabbing him like a koala bear. You know, like koala bears, how they grab trees. That's how Plant was grabbing Benavidez, and it was ridiculous. But it certainly saw him through the fight, if you ask me. I personally had this fight. I thought Benavidez was going to get to him in the 8th or the 10th. And, you know, it was all downhill really from the 7th for me. You know, Plant's face was looking a little bit more stressed. They were getting into close quarters. Benavidez was letting his hands go. And look at the arrangement of punches he was landing Plant with. Jabs, that sneaky like shot, right hand he comes in with like that. Left hooks to the body, doing some neat body work. He was trying to figure out ways to get his shots off on the inside, and he did a better job of that as the fight went on, because it's frustrating when someone's grabbing hold of you like that. It's really hard to land anything decent, especially when Benavidez is a little taller and he does fight a little bit upright. But he was doing his best to shed Plant off him and land whatever he could. Baylor should have just let them fight. If he'd have let them fight, I think that would have definitely been a stoppage. But nonetheless, round 10, you know, Plant was taking a bit of a beating, and Breadman was like in the corner. He's like, bro, like, I might stop this. You got to show me something. So obviously the signs were there. I didn't think Plant was going to make it out before the fight happened. And excuse me, even in like round 10, I was thinking this fight's done. But he fought gallantly. He did. You know, he fought as brave as he could. He fought as tough as he could. You know, there are levels to toughness, and that's why I think Benavidez is levels above Plant with regards to just that sheer animal, and that level of spirit that he has is a higher level to Plant. And Plant, like I said, he showed a lot of courage, but you could see his power was just heavily diminished, and he couldn't really keep him off him. He couldn't hurt Benavidez at this point. His punches were slower. They were less effective, and he was using a lot more energy again when he was doing that flurry of shots. Like, he would just fire off 4 or 5 shots when he was gassed, and they were just hitting the arms straight on the front. One of them might have got through, but I don't think you should be doing that kind of tactic when your energy bars are already dropping to reel off 4 or 5 shots onto the gloves. But you know, he was obviously not being able to think straight because he was getting beaten up. So, you know, and then like really from round 7, like I said, it was all a fairly similar story. Plant's face looking marked up, looking more distressed. That old saying Max Kellerman always brings up that I love, who would you rather be? Obviously Benavidez, looking pretty strong, and finished the fight strongly. You know, he was sensing, you know, the end was near, and he was still turning it up. The pressure he was applying, I compared this fight to a Cotto Margarito 1. Certainly had a lot of similarities with the you know, Plant coming out early, winning the early rounds, but using a lot of energy, and then the fight turns, and then, you know, Benavidez's pressure gets turned up as well. That's why it's so dangerous, because it's not just like, you know, Benavidez is like he's speeding up, he's throwing more punches, the body work's coming in, you know, so it's like having to deal with that when your energy bar is going down, and this guy's feeding off of your distress, which Benavidez does, and he did. And it was a great fight. I really enjoyed that. And then, you know, Plant did what he could to hang in there, and then the 12th round, actually, Plant really, you know, really was fighting. You know, he was really stressed, and he was really in an uncomfortable position, but he was still trying to fight. I mean, it's to say he was trying to win, I guess he probably was. He just couldn't. He was done. Basically, his power was gone. Didn't look like he had any punch could he ever have hurt Benavidez. And in fact, I think from maybe the early rounds, I never thought really Plant was able to do any damage on Benavidez, even with that left hook, even if he'd have sat down on it. And I thought they might have an opportunity, but you know, as the fight got into the 3rd or 4th round, I just thought, I don't think Plant's got enough power to hurt Benavidez, you know. But he was still boxing nicely. Defense was good, head movement was good, IQ was good. That stab jab to the stomach was a really good punch. And I mentioned about Plant's right hand to the belly. Came up a few times. I would have liked to see it a bit more, but I think the stab jab and Plant's jab was working well, you know. But the punch stats, I'll bring them up right now. They're quite revealing, because very, very, you know, in favor of Benavidez, as you'd expect, but I didn't expect him to be that wide. And you know, I could at no point did I see Plant winning this fight on the cards. I'd say probably 7-5 Benavidez. You know, he really won the last 5 rounds for me. 8-4 Benavidez, maybe. It's a yeah. 7-5 is probably accurate. I think, you know, if you looked at that fight, given all the holding, given how Plant's face looked, given who was hurting who, you know, the right man won for sure. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. It was an excellent fight. So what's next for these guys? Okay, so Caleb Plant, look, he's just fought 2 of the 3 best fighters in the division in the space of 3 fights, and he fought another decent opponent in Darrell, and obviously cleaned him out. That's a one heck of a stretch. Okay, you got to take your hat off, because he's fighting the best. Came up short a couple times, but wow, he's putting himself out there to fight the best. The guy deserves a little bit of a break, and his stock will still be fine, because he's in another good, entertaining pay-per-view where he fought his heart out. He did the best he could, you know, and he had a few moments of, you know, that Matador, that comparison I made it to a bull in the Matador, and I think it was the 5th round. He was kind of waving him in like that, as if he had some kind of red flag on him, being a bit arrogant, a bit cocky, a bit flashy. That's the Matador side of him, you know. But the bull in the end was the more tenacious, stronger, you know, more aggressive, and the bull in the end defeated the Matador. And like I said, it could have been quite easily stopped in the 11th or at the end of the 10th. I wouldn't have had an issue with that. You do wonder if that extra, because he was taking a beating in the last round. You do wonder if that extra round or 2 would have done anything, because it's just at that point it's a bit unnecessary. But at the same time, if you're in his corner, Plant's trying to do what he can to make a fight of it, and his stock probably did go up because of the 12th round, because of how he's fighting, and that's where you get the respect. And that's great to see at the end of the fight, because they were talking about they don't want to be friends, or you don't have to be friends, but you know, even not talking to each other. But that you could tell straight away Benavidez had respect for him, and vice versa. So it was great to see. Great to see. And in terms of what Benavidez, I think Plant should just take a rest. Don't even worry about thinking about fighting anybody. Just relax. That was a tough fight. The Canelo fight was a tough fight. Take a rest. Benavidez called out Canelo. Now, obviously, Canelo's talked about not fighting any Mexicans, which is a shame. It looks like a blatant duck to me. Canelo, you know, even Mayweather called it a duck.
Canelo, hell of a fighter, but my personal opinion, he's ducking Benavidez.
But that, I mean, that's like, if Canelo gets through Ryder, which we'd expect, I mean, don't go and mess the undisputed lightweight heavyweight for potentially blocking Bivol, not blocking, but like stopping the Bivol, be it better be a fight. I know Canelo wants to get his vengeance and get his, you know, win back or whatever, and have the chance to beat Bivol, but like those 2 fights make more sense. Benavidez and Canelo, and Bivol and Beterbiev. So we'd love to see those. That's the only fight I want to see Benavidez fight. Look, David Morrell is there as well, 168. I wouldn't expect Benavidez to fight him, although he is that kind of a person. He probably would do, to be honest. David Morrell, very tough Cuban fighter, excellent fighter. Outside of the Canelo fight, I think that's really the only one most boxing fans want to see. We've got to put the pressure on Canelo, you know? Put the pressure on from the fans. That's the only way we're going to get this guy in the ring with Benavidez, is coming from the fans, because if he's trying to swerve him like that, he's going to be allowed to if we don't say anything. So anyway, let me know your thoughts. Shout out to the 1 person, or might have been 2. I did the poll on there. Respect to anybody that voted on there. Somebody got the points. Benavidez. That was, you know, a great call, although I wouldn't, you know, it looked like it was going to be a stoppage for me, but nonetheless, I was happy to see Plant make it out and boost his stock. Hopefully he didn't get too damaged from that last couple of rounds. And respect to Benavidez, had a classy post-fight interview. So, Kenny Bayless, what can I say? That was awful. Just absolutely shocking refereeing. But anyway, look, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know your comments about the fight, and hit the like button if you enjoyed this. I'm going to leave after this some videos that I've got coming. Loads of videos coming on this channel. Shout out to all the new subscribers. Big up. We're going to do this. 2023 is going to be a great year. Peace and love. I'm out.
Boxing.
On it,